sports.
Time to throw down.
Hello, welcome back to the Super Chevy Biko channel, which is no longer inactive. As usual, we will be talking video games, and this time we're talking about an unreleased video game I and thousands of other fighting game players had the chance to playtest a couple of weeks ago. Yes, the 2XKO Alpha Lab has come and gone, even though it seems like the announcement for it wasn't that long ago. Riot's first foray into fighting games isn't quite ready to come out yet, but the game is far along enough for players to test its online capabilities and base mechanics. 2XKO, previously titled Project L, which was a lot easier to remember, was originally shown off in 2020 as a 1v1 fighting game with the same art style as, its source material, League of Legends. Since then, the game has gone through a world of changes, like becoming a tag fighter and switching its art style to something that, apes the style of Arc System Works' different fighting games like DBFZ and Guilty Gear Strive. Now, 4 years later, we got to try 2XKO as it prepares for a release sometime next year. I know the alpha test was not as exclusive as once thought. During the last week or so of the alpha, dozens of influencers were not only given codes to use for themselves, but sometimes up to 100 codes to give to followers, and I'm sure a lot of them received more than that. I will say I did receive my key the old-fashioned way after Riot determined that I was worthy enough to get schmixed by all of the FGC personalities they already let in. Anyway, let's talk about the game itself. This point has probably already been beaten to a pulp by the time this video releases, but the tutorial for the alpha sucked. The tutorial consists of text plopped onto a black box on the screen, asking the player to press a button to commit to an action. There is no text explaining what each move does, nor are there things like explanations for the fuses or team modifiers, which we'll talk about later, what push blocking does, when to use the universal DP given to every character, or when it might be a good time to burst. By the end of the tutorial, no one who hasn't picked up a fighting game has learned anything but how to punch, how blocking works, and how they might pull off a special move. Nothing is shown about how to combo, what buttons might link into other buttons, what special canceling is, how to use character strength to your advantage, nothing like that. It's a bit jarring, and I am willing to forgive Riot because this is only an alpha, and most alpha tests don't even come with a tutorial. Still, this one feels like it was slapped together the week of the alpha's launch. I didn't learn how to parry correctly, let alone, know that there was a parry mechanic in the first place until days into the alpha. If the tutorial mentioned it, I do not remember because the tutorial was probably a grand total of like 3 minutes. Still, the alpha had training mode where I learned how to play the game through experimentation based on my previous knowledge as a fighting game player and enthusiast. This is a problem. 2XKO is not a wholly unique fighting game that reinvents the wheel. Its foundations lie with tag fighters of the past, like the original Marvel vs. Capcom, Dragon Ball FighterZ, and more recently, Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. The only reason I personally knew how to, for example, combo my opponent into a launcher without using the auto combo based Team Fuse was because I know the Magic series, which, a lot of fighting game players know, light, medium, heavy. They usually link into each other with these types of games. It's burned into my brain from years of playing Marvel vs. Capcom 3 terribly, and it's what makes tag games easy to access. Easy to remember combos that allow improvisation. There are certain things about these games that players should be taught in the tutorial, like that heavy buttons going low are sweeps, or that mixing opponents is as easy as just pressing the tag button during a combo, or that an OTG or off the ground move can really help you extend combos, or you can use moves to carry the opponent into the corner, which can give you more potential to have a higher, damage combo. There are also other things you should learn, like that light attacks are faster than heavy attacks, which I know sounds like it, should be common sense, but it should be taught in the tutorial. This is all knowledge that I got through just playing fighting games for 20 years or so, just no big deal or anything. But I learned all of that over the years through different tutorials, which 2XKO does not provide in this case. I actually feel sorry for anyone who jumped into this alpha without knowing how to play a fighting game if they didn't have a friend there to guide them. I can only imagine the confusion going on in their minds while they were getting comboed from one end of the stage to the other, weren't able to break a combo after they used their burst once, things like that. Hopefully when the game comes out, the tutorial is fully fleshed out and interactable, but I think Riot may have lost a few interested players from this poor onboarding. Still, training mode did give players a space to figure things out on their own time, with options like controlling the dummy and other basic training mode necessities. I labbed echo setups and those really long Ari combos in there for a while and practiced combos with Illaoi before hopping online every day.
Indomitable! Illaoi wins!
Capcom and DBFZ, and I think it leans more to the former than to the latter, with a little bit of Skullgirls thrown in. It's a 2v2 game. Each character has 2 assist moves and their own unique set of special moves and normals. The game can also be played with 1 player controlling each character, with 4 players playing at once, with 2 on each team. Before each match, players can select fuses or team modifiers. The modifiers are as follows. Pulse. This modifier gives you the ability to auto-combo by pressing 1 button repeatedly, including comboing into super. I used this one the least and found it to be the option that players move on from after they've played their first dozen games or so. Fury. Riot themselves described this fuse as the easiest non-pulse fuse, which is fair considering the biggest selling point is the bonus damage given to characters under 40% of their health. This fuse also has a dash cancel that the player can throw onto the end of any special or normal move. I use this one the least, but in my opinion it resembles X Factor from Marvel vs. Capcom, something like that, except it's activated automatically. 2 times assist. This fuse lets the player's secondary character or duo partner perform 2 assist actions before leaving the screen, effectively letting you keep pressure up on the opponent and keep those mix-ups going. I use this one quite a bit as it worked for combo expression and pressuring the opponent, but I imagine it's used a lot easier and a lot better when you have a duo partner. Double down. This one lets the player follow a level 1 super with a level 1 or 2 super move, essentially cranking up the damage on a super move. Marvel players will recognize this mechanic very well, since in that game you can also cancel specials into other specials, or supers into supers. Freestyle. This fuse lets players handshake twice in a sequence, which essentially lets the 2 characters act independently twice. This works great for sandwiching opponents and build your own mixes in the corner. I use this fuse the most for long combos and extensions and mixing my opponents up. I imagine, though, that this is really cool with a duo partner. There's plenty of people playing on YouTube to watch for that type of thing. But yeah, this one is definitely the one you want to use if you have a partner. The game also lacks input motions, which is rare but not revolutionary. And for people who don't know what that means, it means that you just press a direction with a special button rather than using motion inputs. This choice does lead to better accessibility for new crowds and a sigh of relief for players like myself that want to give my hands a break while I perform long combos. I only wish the option for motion inputs was there for players who wanted it, although I personally prefer this control scheme. It works really well for getting to learn characters quickly and figuring out combos on the fly. The control layout is pretty familiar with light, medium, and heavy attack buttons, 2 special buttons, and a tag button. A dash macro is also included, although I personally did not use it during my time with the game. Hopefully these controls can be customized in the full game, but I think they work great for pad and stick players. Now let's get to my favorite part of this entire alpha, the characters, which to me is what makes this game really shine.
Select your fighters!
To clarify, I have no prior knowledge of League of Legends. I often joke to friends that I have installed the game on at least 3 computers and never actually opened it. Still, one thing I will give Riot is that their character designs are iconic and eye-catching, even to outsiders. I gravitated towards Echo and Illaoi, not only for their designs, Echo, a snotty but hilarious timebender, and Illaoi, a buff, jovial woman with control over tentacles, which I still don't understand, but whatever. But their special moves and game plan are really what drew me to them. Echo's rewind specials and setups, complete with projectiles and an install super, allow for complex but worthwhile combos in the corner and poking his opponent from short range with insane, but it's worth it. Illaoi, on the other hand, has tentacles that act as combo extenders if used correctly after setting them up through moves on the special 2 button, which, like I said earlier, there's 2 different buttons for special. She hits hard, doesn't have much range, but overwhelms opponents with tentacles that set themselves up. Massive air combos and a super that hits OTG for even more damage. I found myself really, breaking myself into bad situations at the end of matches with Illaoi, so, hopefully she's just as good when the game comes out. These designs and playstyle types are what are going to make 2XKO stand out. I didn't play anyone on the roster that made me feel like I was playing a different character from another fighting game. Like, yeah, there are things from other games that other characters have that kind of remind you of those things. Like, Ahri has a bit of anime fighting game mechanics in her moves, especially her air dash, which she uses for mix-ups, which those games are known for, and her assist that is straight up just Vegeta's assist from Dragon Ball FighterZ. But she's unique all the same with her setup projectiles and rushdown playstyle. Braum is a heavy hitter with a command grab and a shield assist, but I wouldn't compare him to Zangief for Captain America. Yasuo, the samurai character, has traces of anime fighting in his move set as well, and he has zoning capabilities. Darius is an asshole who hits hard. That's all he is to me. I'm sure there's more about him to like his hook move with the axe that keeps the enemy close, or his ability to cap off combos with the same damage, but to me, he's just an asshole who hits really hard. These characters are what makes me excited for the full release of 2XKO, especially with footage from the developer including more well-known League characters like Jinx in development already. 2XKO can make its mark on the FGC if they can keep supplying fresh, easy to understand but hard to master playstyles like the ones they've presented with these 6 characters in the alpha. That's the best part about this game. I didn't play a single match that felt like the previous one. There weren't too many one-note flowcharty matches on my end, and I learned something every game. No one will be pulling off 40-hit combos with meter dumps that lead to a character's death as soon as they pick this game up, but the fact that that is possible and more is true to that tag fighter feeling carried on by games like Power Rangers and Skullgirls. Easy to learn, hard to master, but really fulfilling when you get to master them. This game lives and dies on its character archetypes, which Riot has plenty of. It's exciting, even as someone who isn't a League fan, to think of how many characters this game can have and how different they will all be. My only other gripes about the game are the damage bug with Ahri, which will probably be fixed before released, the low health for each character, and the combos not doing the same damage across different characters. I thought that was pretty strange. I'm not sure if that was a glitch or not. Hopefully the choice for health was to make sure that games went by quickly, but it made for very short rounds at times. I think the combo damage issue may also be a bug once again, but I'm not sure. Once again, I know this is an alpha and hopefully these things will be changed by the time the game comes out, but the UI was a bit wonky from my end. In between matches, I would get artifacts on my screen from the lobby, like, you know, those weird couches that they have would be like these really weird wavy forms on the screen. When I closed the game on PS5 too, which you can do for some reason from the main menu, the system recognized it as the game crashing. The PS5 application functioned like it was on PC, at times replacing my button symbols with mouse symbols and, you know, like the clicking symbol and keyboard keys. Hopefully this can all be fixed, but it's easy to tell that Riot isn't used to making games for consoles. They only recently released Valorant on consoles, and that had its own kinks as well. Riot has plenty of time to learn how to release a game on console correctly, and they're already working on it with Valorant, their other big game recently being released on consoles. I also wish that the online play was separate from the local modes, just so players know what they are getting into. I feel like it is a bit easy to just get into the lobby and get thrown into a match and then probably get discouraged. The lobby system and the very basic matchmaking system worked fine. I'm not a fan of lobbies, but this one was small and easy to navigate, which made it tolerable. The little avatars that you use to navigate the lobby are pretty cool too. You can customize them to make them look like you and stuff, but it will be a bit annoying if the season passes are mostly items for them rather than costumes or skins for the characters you can actually play in game. Matchmaking is easy. It's done with one button while you're standing in the lobby. Once you've been matched, you run to the cabinet where the game is selected for you and the other player to play. It's actually pretty interactive and cool in my opinion. In the future, I hope this can also be done with menus though, or while in training mode rather than a lobby. I understand the need to push avatars or whatever just to make your game more aesthetically pleasing or easier for casuals to use. But Riot, please just give us menus that we can use to get into a game. I'm sure a lot of people will be over avatars after like the first week of the game, but we'll see, I guess. We also need a matchmaking system for teams, maybe one that pairs higher skill players with novice players so that new players get onboarded better. Duo matches are cool, but some people don't have a friend to play with or would rather matchmake anyway, so I think an option for that should be available in the final game. Intro cinematics for each match need to be able to be skipped by either player, full stop. I appreciate that time was put into them, but we all know the intros get skipped by players trying to get to the meat of the game after the first time they see them, especially after the first couple weeks that the game is out or a new character has been released. Matches lose momentum when intros have to play out. Rematches should see the intros go away totally, with the round beginning immediately, like games like Street Fighter or Guilty Gear Strive. Hopefully, these aspects of the game have already undergone changes the public hasn't seen yet, specifically to the intros and matchmaking. Unfortunately, avatar-based lobby systems are here to stay for fighting games, and 2XKO's isn't much different than the others like Tekken and Street Fighter. Hopefully, the game has a menu version of being able to access all those things in the future like Street Fighter does.
Bounce! Now get right back! This way.
While short and sweet and full of its own little kinks and glitches, the 2XKO alpha was very fun, and that's what matters. not just at a pro level or a casual level, but everywhere in between. The game obviously needs work on balancing, tutorials, and the user interface, but the bones of what's already here are solid. As someone who does not care for League of Legends, I find myself anticipating the full release of this game much, much more than I did before I got my hands on it. If there is another test before the release, like a beta rather than an alpha, I feel anyone even remotely interested should jump in and give it a shot. As for Riot, please take mine and others' feedback so the game can hit the ground running when it officially drops. Thanks for watching, and come back to the Super Chevy Biko channel soon for more videos on fighting games and gaming in general. See you soon, I promise.
Heart on fire!